there is a version of success that nobody warns you about. Not the version where things are not working. The version where everything is working, the clients are happy, the process is running, the team knows what to do, and somehow you are more locked in than you have ever been. Not locked in as in focused. Locked in as in you cannot leave. The system is humming, and you are the battery. That is what I want to talk about today. Because most of the conversation around building systems is about getting to the point where things run without you. What almost nobody talks about is what happens when the system starts running you instead. I have been in that place. And the reason it is so disorienting is that from the outside, it looks identical to success. The numbers are fine. The operation is moving. Nothing is on fire. But somewhere in the middle of all that forward motion, you realize that you did not choose a single thing you did this week. The system chose it. You just showed up and filled the slots it left for you. So how does that happen? And more importantly, how do you know when it is happening to you? The first thing to understand is that every system you build develops its own gravity over time. When you are in the early stages of building, you are the one applying force. You are pushing the process forward, making decisions, adjusting as you go. The system depends entirely on your presence and your energy to move it all. That is exhausting, but it is also clarifying. You are clearly in charge because nothing happens without you. But as the system matures, something shifts. The process starts to have expectations. The clients expect a certain cadence. The team expects a certain rhythm. The deliverables expect a certain input at a certain time. And because you built all of that, because you are the one who established those expectations, you feel responsible for meeting them. Which means the system now has a claim on your time that does not require your permission. It just assumes your presence. And you give it because that is what you have always done. That is the moment the gravity flips. You are no longer pushing the system. The system is pulling you. The second thing is what I think of as the maintenance trap, and this one is subtle because it disguises itself as responsibility. Once a system is running, the work shifts from building to protecting. You are no longer creating the process. You are making sure the process holds. And that work is real. It matters. But it is fundamentally different from the work that got you here, and if you are not paying attention, it will quietly consume all the space that was supposed to be reserved for growth. The emails that have to go out. The check-ins that have to happen. The standard that slips the moment you stop holding it. You checked everything off this week and still feel like you went nowhere. Not because you were not working, because every single thing you did was maintenance. You were holding position. And holding position feels exactly like building. Same hours. Same effort. Completely different direction. The reason most people do not catch this early enough is that the transition is gradual. There is no single moment where you hand control over to the system. It is a slow accumulation of small commitments, small obligations, small defaults that each seem entirely reasonable on their own. One recurring meeting that makes sense. One standard you set that now needs protecting. One expectation you establish that the client now relies on. Individually, none of those things are a problem. Collectively, they become the architecture of a day you did not design. And by the time you notice, the system has months of momentum behind it. Changing it feels irresponsible. Slowing it down feels like letting people down. So you keep filling the slots. And the slots keep multiplying. So what do you actually do about it? The first thing is to get honest about what you are actually doing with your time. Not what you plan to do. Not what you intend to prioritize. What you actually did last week, broken down by category. How much of it was building something new? How much of it was protecting something existing? Most people who do this exercise for the first time are genuinely surprised by the ratio. The maintenance column is almost always larger than they thought. The building column is almost always smaller. The second thing is to separate yourself from the system's critical path deliberately and repeatedly. Not by stepping away from the business, by building the next layer of infrastructure that means the system can meet its own obligations without routing everything through you. Every time the system needs you to function, that is a design problem, not a time management problem. The answer is not to manage your calendar better. The answer is to rebuild the part of the system that has you as a dependency. The third thing is the hardest. You have to be willing to let the system run imperfectly while you build that next layer. The maintenance trap is so powerful, partly because it gives you a very good reason to stay inside it. Things will slip if you step back. Standards will dip. Some client will notice. And that is true. That dip is real. But it is also temporary if you use the space you create to build the thing that removes you from the critical path permanently. If you do not use that space, the dip was for nothing and you will be back inside the trap within a month. The operators who break out of this cycle are not the ones who find a way to do the maintenance faster. They are the ones who accept a short period of imperfection as the price of a permanent structural change. The system running you is not a character flaw. It is almost inevitable at a certain stage of growth. The question is not whether it happens. The question is how long you stay inside it once you recognize it. And recognition is the first move. Most people are so busy filling the slots that they never stop long enough to ask who designed this day and whether they would have chosen it if they had been paying attention. Next episode, we are going into something that connects directly to this. The difference between a system that scales and one that just grows. Because adding more of what you already have is not the same as building something that compounds. And most operators find that out too late. I will see you tomorrow.